Hey, how are you, Dolphin? And Dragonstorm. Dragonstorm, I like that name. Evening, let's say. Evening, Dragon. We'll just wait till we get. I think Facebook's the lagger at the moment. Facebook takes ages to sort of load up, so we'll just wait for Facebook to load up. And there we go. Good evening, Bianca. Thank you for joining us. Yeah, we're slowly getting there. All right. So, folks, my name's Chris Nitzo. For those that don't know, if this is your first time tuning in, most of you it's not, but for those of you that it is your first time, thank you for tuning in and good evening. I'm a lead forecaster here at WIQ, and we've got a fair bit to talk about today. But in the interest of saving my voice, because I have to do a lot of updates for our members at the moment, what I'm going to play to you is the 23-minute video that I gave them about an hour ago now. And that goes through the things that we're looking at in the tropics in terms of low pressure development and to some extent rainfall. At the end of this 20-odd minute video, I also want to talk about northeast Queensland's rainfall. And then we'll get stuck into your questions. So, yeah, just in the interest of saving my voice and having to say the same things I said just an hour ago, I'm going to play this for you. It's a 23-minute video. It's the first, 13 minutes goes on about the eastern lows, the ones that are coming onto Queensland. The next 5 minutes, it talks about the NT and Gulf low. And the last 5 minutes, it talks about a couple of lows off the coast of WA. So it goes for 23 minutes. And it's an example, by the way, of what we provide to our subscribers every single day when it comes to analysis and that sort of thing. And for subscribers, you can see what we've done today. We've given Queensland Weather Week forecast in the morning, Cairns regional forecast, looking at the tablelands, the Townsville regional forecast, looking at the Townsville district and the Burdekin, especially today, I think was the hotspot. Mackay regional forecast, lots of showers down there today. Central East and Southeast Queensland regional forecast, not much going on there, but there was a fair bit going on there yesterday. And then we talked about the last update on the Western Queensland low, the Eastern NT low, and the Cape, Gulf and Northeastern NT. Nhulunbuy copped an absolute hammering in the last 24 hours of rainfall. So we talked about that. And then we talked about the western top end, so the Darwin region, Adelaide River, Port Keats, and then the Kimberley also, which is going to witness some very good rain. And then this evening, we talked about the North Oz Tropics Watch. So this is the one I'm going to play to you, is the evening update on the North Oz Tropics Watch, where it outlines all the systems we're watching and why we're watching them and what we expect them to do, which is a little bit tricky at the moment. All right, so just before we start, Fair Dinkum Builds, folks, they're our major sponsor, top left of your screen there, Fair Dinkum Builds. So if you're in the market for a shed-safe accredited shed, check them out. Might not be able to do anything for you today or tomorrow because they're in Las Vegas, but they'll be back soon enough. So that's the Fair Dinkum Builds. They're having a great time. And yeah, the other thing is that if you do want to support us and you do have the funds available, think about a subscription where you get access to all those forecasts every single day of the wet season that I just spoke about. Costs you $32.95 a year, basically a cup of coffee a month. No, not even. No, you don't get a coffee for $2.50 a month. So it's not going to cost you much. And if you want everything that we've got, including all the charts and diagrams and things, it's $70 a year. So it's, $6, $7, $6. What is it, about $6? That is a cup of coffee a month. All right. So as I say, it's not much. We're not asking for a hell of a lot. And if you can support us, we thank you very much for doing so. Right. Without further ado, let's play this for you. Oh, by the way, sorry, before we start, we've got a cyclone. Cyclone Ermil in the Vanuatu. Remember, I think we talked about it about a week ago. We said that there was going to be a cyclone around Vanuatu, developed in the last 48 hours. It's going out to the graveyard. Nothing to see here for us from a Queensland or Australian perspective. It has intensified since leaving the island chain. So you can see now it's thankfully out into the graveyard. Hopefully not too many cruise ships going on through there. But yeah, thankfully the intensification of that happened after it went past. All right. Let me play our video here. G'day folks, welcome to a North Oz Tropics Watch for today, tonight, the 28th of the 2nd, 2026. This update brought to you by townsvillesheds.com. Instead of starting off with the easy ones first in WA, let's start off with the hard ones first today with the Queensland systems. Alright, so we've got a situation here where the monsoon trough is going to reorganise itself basically from around Cooktown, Cape Melville eastwards. That monsoon trough will then extend way out into the Coral Sea. Inside that monsoon trough, and keep an eye on the time frame here, around Tuesday, Wednesday, we're anticipating the development of a low. Now, where that low forms, its initial formation point, I can't stress how important this part is. All right, where it forms to start with will determine who it hits. All right, so here's an example. Let's say, hypothetically, the system forms fairly close to the coast. What do you reckon is going to happen? It's going to move. Remember that it's going to move towards the west to southwest all the week, except for Saturday night, Sunday. Saturday night, Sunday, it stops moving southwest, starts moving south and southeast. All right, so these ones here, where do you reckon they're going to go? These ones between the edge of New Guinea and the Queensland coast, they're going to whack the coast, and they're going to whack the coast more than likely north of Townsville and more than likely around the Cairns district. All right, so they're whacking the coast around about Thursday, Friday. All right, that's the expectation with regards to a Western system. Hypothetically speaking, let's have a look at where the greatest amount of model members are suggesting the system will be on Wednesday morning, and that is here, a little bit further east of the plots that I just drew, and we can see that in these model members, the central model members, we have a coastal crossing between Cairns and Mackay of a system, and a category 1 or 2 system, and you can see there the system crossing the coastline in the vicinity of Townsville in both of those model members. Once again, the crossing time frame is Thursday night, Friday morning, more likely Friday morning actually, in that, and all the way through to Saturday morning. All right, so that's the timing of impact in that solution. Hypothetically speaking, let's go back to Wednesday and let's see what happens if this low is located in the far eastern envelope. That's these ones here. What do we do there? Well, what we do there is we drop the cyclone well south of Townsville, and we drop the cyclone down towards Yeppoon, and sort of that Mackay to Yeppoon area, or Whitsundays to Yeppoon area. So you can see there, and the coastal crossing time, what happens to that? It gets delayed to Friday afternoon into Saturday. All right, that's the coastal crossing time frame in an eastern solution. We're not going to get 3 cyclones, but we don't know where we're going to get the 1 cyclone. All right, we don't know where we're going to get the 1 low pressure system. Let's call it a low pressure system because there's no guarantee it's going to be a cyclone. Now, what makes it tricky is the fact that we could get a situation where 1 low forms, comes onto the coast, but a trough that continues to extend southeast of it creates a new low into the future. Let me talk you through this scenario because it's becoming a scenario that's being shown more and more in the guidance. And as I say, it's a scenario that's becoming more and more popular with each model run. So it's always important to follow trends, and we don't marry the trend, but we do follow the trend, and we watch to see if the trend becomes the dominant expectation. So the trend at the moment, based on today's evidence, is that yes, we're going to see a low close to the coast. Yes, it's going to hit the coast around the Cairns district. All right, so that's what we're seeing evidence of, but I want you to pay attention to the trough that extends to the east and then southeast of the circulation as this thing comes onto the coastline on the end of the week. So it comes onto the coast, as we talked about, Thursday and Friday, so late Thursday into early Friday. That's when it comes onto the coast. Now, I want you to pay attention to the southern edge of that. All right, so you can see that there's a tail to that low. So there's a low, but there's a trough that's attached to the tail of the low. all right, down to the southeast. Now, as the low gets on the coast around the Cairns district, you'll notice that tail, so the low will weaken, but the tail strengthens, and we develop a secondary vortex at the bottom end of the tail, at the southern edge of the tail. And then from that, we stop moving west after Saturday, and then from there we start moving southeast. So this means that we have multiple areas of potential impact. We have an impact in the north, and we potentially have an impact in the south, with all the central bits missing out if we see a situation like that. Obviously, all bets are off the table if we see something in the northern central Coral Sea. That's why I've been saying alarm bells, alarm bells, alarm bells. We see something in the northern central Coral Sea, that's the case for the Townsville Mackay impact of a fairly significant tropical low, or more likely a weak tropical cyclone. But the idea here is the trend, while the general dominant, let's say most favoured outcome is for a weak cyclone to come onto the coast around the North Queensland or northern central Queensland coast, the emerging trend is for what I've just shown you there. All right, and it is important that we understand the trend is increasing in probability. It's still not the favoured outcome. The favoured outcome remains a coastal crossing of a high-end tropical low or a low-end tropical cyclone between Tully and Serena. So Tully and St. Lawrence. That continues to remain the dominant thought process here. But we have got this increasing trend of multiple circulations, one in the north and then one in the south as we get closer to the weekend. All right, so that complicates things to no end, as you can imagine. And that's why when we just look at where all the dots are and where all the possibilities are, we can't make any sense out of that diagram whatsoever. And that's because we're starting to see evidence of two circulations, not just the one. And so you can see here that we've got a circulation closer to the coast. That comes onto the coast around Cairns. And we've got a circulation further to the south, and that one comes onto the coast either around southern central Queensland, or it stays off the coast altogether. Now, once again, can I restate, the dominant and the most likely outcome still remains a coastal crossing of a weak tropical cyclone between Tully and St. Lawrence. That is still the case tonight, as of the latest guidance, but it's not clear cut, and there's certainly a lot of doubt being shown in the latest model guidance, okay? So that's where we are tonight. I'm sure we'll be somewhere else tomorrow night. Until we start to see this thing form, we're just not going to have much of a clue, and we're going to be seeing images like this for at least the next 24 hours, maybe the next 48 hours. Beyond that, we'll have a pretty good idea, I would imagine, because we'll see where things start to form. Once we've got something forming, once we've got a concrete system out there, the computer models will do a grand job at picking it up and figuring out what it's going to do. All right, but for now, we need to keep an eye on where does the circulation form, where is the circulation on Tuesday or Wednesday. If it's in the west, it'll hit the far north. If it's in the central parts, it'll hit down here, and alarm bells for tropical cyclone development. And if it's out in the east, well then maybe not alarm bells for tropical cyclone development, but maybe east coast low development as it approaches the southeast or southern central Queensland coastline. So that's what the alarm bells will be ringing for there. Okay, so complex trough, one circulation is guaranteed in that trough. Where that circulation will develop is going to be all important for who it hits, and even if it hits. Rightio, if the cyclone is able to find itself in a actual circulation as opposed to just a large scale trough, tropical cyclone shear magnitude over the course of the back half of the week is going to be very low. So we're going to see decreasing shear in the Coral Sea from Wednesday. We're going to see increasingly and significantly increasingly favourable ingredients for tropical cyclone development in the Coral Sea, particularly in the western half of the Coral Sea as it approaches the coastline. You can see tropical cyclone shear magnitude is very low through that entire north coast region and extending down to at least about St. Lawrence. So that means that cyclone potential is sky high for this entire coastal zone. The problem isn't the environment. The problem is the structure.
Once again, this is a problem the Coral Sea's been having for the last decade. Structure, 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 and a lack of. Moisture content in the atmosphere, a little bit of a different story there with moisture content. It's very dry in the Western Coral Sea, at least until Thursday or even early Friday. By Friday, we moisten up the Coral Sea environment and we see enough moisture to sustain a tropical cyclone between Friday and Sunday. So we do see increasing levels of moisture through the Coral Sea as we move towards the end of the week there. And we're seeing that evidence from Friday, I would suspect. But up until then, what we are seeing is very dry air in the Coral Sea. So that part of the environment isn't playing ball. So you'd want the system to stay up here in the north if you're looking for it to become a cyclone. Otherwise, it will dry out if it tries to move too far south too quickly. So that's as we go into Tuesday, Wednesday and Thursday. Thursday, you can just make out the fact that anything north of Willis Island is happy days for a cyclone. Anything south of Willis Island means low wind shear but also low moisture. And so Willis Island to Cairns is our cutoff for a cyclone come Wednesday, Thursday, but that cutoff will shift southwards Thursday, Friday. All right, so the environment improves through the Coral Sea as the week goes on, and all systems go for tropical cyclone development as long as structure is there, and that is the problem. Structure, structure, structure. Steering winds are pretty simple stuff here, at least until about Saturday. Anything that develops in the Coral Sea will be moving west to west-southwest at this stage from wherever it develops. So if it develops out here, it'll be moving west-southwest. If it develops out here, it'll be moving west-southwest. If it develops out here, it'll be moving west-southwest. Okay? So depending on where it develops, and no matter where it develops, anywhere in the Coral Sea that it develops, it'll be moving, what way? West-southwest. That all changes on Sunday. Now, I just want to talk about the East Coast low aspect of this. I want you to pay attention to what happens here on Saturday night, Sunday. So our steering ridge breaks down, and what ends up happening here on Saturday and Sunday is an upper trough just comes through. Actually, you're not going to see it there. You're going to see it at the 300 hectopascal level, I hope. Yeah, there it is there. All right, so you can see at the 300 hectopascal level, it's just a very weak shortwave trough that comes through. Not enough to drive a hell of a lot of wind shear, but it is enough to allow the system to intensify as it changes structure to an East Coast low. So in this setup, I would be expecting, so let's say hypothetically speaking, if the system was to start further eastwards and head down towards southern Queensland, I would expect there to be some type of intensification as it changed and deflected away from the coast. So as it came onto the coast or deflected away from the coast. So this part here, this deflection part, is where I would expect to see a system intensifying. Now, if that deflection happens inland of the coast, then we're going to see an East Coast low intensifying inland of the coast. What do you reckon that does to our rainfall potential? Whew, baby, does it jump it up a lot? A lot. So the idea is at this point of deflection, there could be an increase in intensity of the system. So that point of deflection, though, we don't know where it's going to be, do we? Because we don't know where the low is going to be, do we? We don't know where the low is going to form, do we? And that's why we can't really speculate on exactly where this deflection will take place, and that's why we can't speculate on rainfalls towards the end of the week and into the weekend, particularly into the weekend. All right, that's enough on this one, otherwise I'll go crazy. Let's go and talk about the Gulf and the NT, and then let's go and talk about WA.
Rightio, so that was what we sent to the members about an hour ago regarding the Queensland system. Obviously, very complicated setup, multiple circulations potentially forming along a fairly deep trough. Not a hell of a lot of certainty in any of these scenarios. All right, so yes, the favoured scenario is for a coastal crossing between Tully and St. Lawrence, but when we're talking about a favoured scenario, it's about a 30 to 40% risk of happening. All right, it's not a guarantee we expect it to do that. Okay, that's not the way this is playing out. This is going to be quite a complicated setup until we've got something that develops. Once something develops, I expect the models to fall into line very quickly, and you'll start to get some really good confidence about exactly what's going to happen. But until that point, you're going to see all sorts of solutions and scenarios until we get something out there. So we're talking Tuesday at this stage, where we'll actually see something out there. And on Tuesday, I suspect it'll take models about 6 to 12 hours to sort of hone in on that. And then we'll start to get some really good agreement about who's got to get ready, who's got to prepare, okay? Because right now, if you want to be pedantic about it, everyone from Lockhart River down to northeast New South Wales has a chance at seeing this thing, all right? That's silly. We've got to try and narrow that down, right? Okay, so that's that one. Now we're going to go into the Gulf for 5 minutes, and then we're going to go into WA for 5 minutes, and then I'll take your questions after that. I want to have a look at some rainfalls, and then I'll take your questions after that. So 10 more minutes, and I'll be back with you.
Rightio, in the Gulf area, what we do expect to see is another area of rotation forming around the southern Gulf Coast. Now, there is a fairly strong ridge that comes in underneath that, so that might pull the system a little bit northwards and then drag it very quickly to the west, and you can see it there dragging into the NT through the back half of the week, or middle to back half of the week, and out potentially into the Kimberley. Let's have a look at the computer model evidence for this one. So we've got a reasonable amount of evidence that there's going to be a low in the Gulf somewhere, a very weak low in the Gulf somewhere, as we go into Tuesday night, Wednesday morning, and then a gradual track to the west. And you can see there almost 100% model agreement that there's a track to the west. The difficulty will come as to whether it moves northwards initially before moving westwards, or whether it just moves to the west. And you can see the model consensus is generally the system should be moving across either the base or the central parts of the top end, and more so the base of the top end by the looks of that would be the model consensus. And so that would continue to drive extreme rainfall potential for the northern top end's coastline, and likely drive an area of heavy rainfall down into Borrow, maybe Groot, and maybe even the Nullarbor area, depending on how close to Nullarbor the thing gets. But expect to see big increases in rainfall through the top end back half of the forecast. From a tropical cyclone perspective, let's have a quick look at the environment. So for the first half of the week, we do have really nice moisture content through the deep layer atmosphere, and you can see that there. We do have some dry air pushing into the southeastern Gulf, so it needs to get west ASAP. The dry air will try and murder it before it hits the coastline, but as long as it can make the coastline in the NT side of the border by Thursday, latest early Friday, we should be able to see the system continue to track on its merry way across the base of the top end. So that's our 700, 400s. Let's have a look here at our tropical cyclone shear as we go into this period, and we can see that it's got a few things going against it, doesn't it? You can see here that the area in the southern Gulf where all that dry air is also an area that doesn't have much wind shear. So you've got lots of dry air, but you can't develop the thunderstorms properly, but you've got no wind shear, which is great for a cyclone. You push it west, and you've got heaps of wind shear but heaps of moisture. So I don't think this system's going to find itself in the nicest environment here. It's not going to find itself in an environment that's conducive to intensification. And then as this dry air comes rushing in from the south, you can see that the dry air is creating a very low shear environment, but the problem with dry air is it's going to evaporate a lot of the storm activity. So we're never going to find a sweet spot in the Gulf where, well, not never, but we're never in this system going to find a sweet spot where we've got low shear and high moisture content. So, it's a bit of a problem there, I think, and so we do need to be mindful of that, that we're never going to get to a stage where we're totally favourable for development. The point of the matter, though, isn't that. The point of the matter is that we should see some very heavy rainfall from this system through the entire top end, and that's I think, the big selling point here. It's not the tropical cyclone potential as such, it's the possibility of seeing very, very heavy falls of rain over a prolonged period of time through this time frame. And you can see there that we're really starting to develop some big numbers over the course of the next week and a half in this area. So we're developing the first lot of heavy rain from the first low, which we'll talk about in a sec, and then we're developing further heavy rain, and not just around the base of the top end, but also the western and the northern and the Gulf region from the second system. So there's a real opportunity here to see massive amounts of rain over a very large area of land as this second system gets itself together. So that's I think the big selling point here. It's not so much the likelihood of this becoming a cyclone, which seems to be reasonably low because we just can't get things to line up properly through the region. But look, generally speaking, there's some serious rain potential in this, and we do need to be taking it serious across the top end for major flooding potential with this system that's currently there and the next system that's about to come around about mid to late week. The tricky part of that forecast is going to be, does it come through the central NT, the northern NT coast, or the base of the top end? Obviously, the base of the top end presents the greatest flood opportunity for the greatest amount of people. The central top end also not far behind with regards to flooding. It just might not create flooding that far to the south anymore. And the northern top end coast is probably the one with the least amount of flood potential, but also the one that might see some better opportunities for it to become a tropical cyclone in the longer term. Okay, so that's the difference there. The northern top end coast has a greater chance of developing into a cyclone, but less chance of providing as much rainfall. Central top end means lots of rain for lots of folks. Base of the top end means maximum rain for maximum folks. Okay, so that's what we're looking for here late next week. Now, before we get there, we've got another low to talk about. That low is going to form on the NT side of the border at some stage around about Sunday night, Monday morning. NT side of the border. That low will then push west into the Kimberley and then push west off the coast of the Kimberley. That low will then continue to push in a west to west southwest direction and get out to sea and never hurt another human. Total accumulated precipitation in that time though means that we could see some very heavy falls of rain through a large section of the Kimberley, and that's before our second low. Our second low hasn't even shown its face yet. We don't know if the second low is going to make it this far or whether it's going to be a bit further north, right? But the first low on its own is still going to create very significant rainfall over a large area. The second low would then create a massive flood for the Kimberley. As we all know, they've had a fair bit of rain this season through the Kimberley. It won't take a hell of a lot more now to really create a major flood for the region. So at this stage, we can sort of guarantee good rain from the first one. We can't guarantee good follow-up rain for the second one because we don't know where that's exactly going to go. It could be just north of the place, right? So that would keep the rain north of here or in the far northern edge of here as we continue. All right, so that's this system tracking west. I want to talk more about the cyclone potential of this though. So let's have a quick look at that. We talked about the rain in your Kimberley update. Make sure you're checking those out daily. Right, yeah, we also have a low at Christmas Island. Now that low from Christmas Island is going to be pushing eastwards at the same time as the low off the Kimberley coast is going to be pushing westwards. They have an interaction. The low here is weak enough that it may not even be a slingshot effect system. You can see it basically washes out now. So you can see there that the interaction becomes less and less interesting as we go through. The trend is that this interaction will not be as interesting as it was perhaps being touted to be yesterday or the day before. And the idea being here that our low pressure system, as it tracks westwards, unlikely to impact the coast directly. Might create some gusty thunderstorms through the Pilbara, but that about does us with regards to potential for rainfall from this thing. Total accumulated precipitation for this region is very little. With the system expected to move more westwards than southwestwards, and so taking it further and further off the coastline, meaning that we won't see any significant rain in the Pilbara from this particular low, which is once again a bit of a cruel blow following that other low that didn't do its thing either. And the other low, the cyclone Mitchell, that didn't do its thing either. So it's been a bit of a cruel blow for the Pilbara folk. Total accumulated precip, and look, no matter what model we're using, they're all telling us the same thing. Let's have a quick look, in fact, at all the models. Right, yeah, so that covers every single model that we've got that's picked this system up. And I'll just bring us down here so we can see the time frame. There's Wednesday, getting off the coast Tuesday night, Wednesday morning, and then continuing west to west southwest. and clear evidence there that it stays well off the coast. The core does not impact the coastline whatsoever. For our Christmas Island system, at this point in time, we're also not seeing evidence of that system really affecting the coastline. We do see in some models still a bit of a slingshot effect. So you can still see there is a bit of a slingshot effect, but it basically washes out so quickly that it gets absorbed as it gets slingshot. So it gets absorbed into the dominant circulation's vortex. So that's what's expected to happen there. So overall, this becomes a fairly uninteresting sort of setup. As I say, the most interesting component is the rainfall for the Kimberley. And then maybe some strong winds just off the coast of Broome as it gets off the coast, but even that appears to be less likely. And then, of course, we're looking for System 2 and whether or not System 2 can make it this far west. And if it does, then we're looking for major flooding in the Kimberley if System 2 makes it this far west. All right, that's basically what we're looking for through the west, the north and the east over the next week to week and a half. Have a good day.
Alrighty. So that was basically, guys, that was a sneak peek at what we offer to subscribers. And as I say, that's what $32.95 a year gets you on every single wet season day, on top of another hour and a half of content for specific areas. All right, so we're going to do that over the next few days, over the next few lives, just because I need to preserve my voice, because the subscribers, I have to make sure I take care of them and that I can create an hour and a half, 2 hours of content for them without ruining my voice in the meantime. So just please understand that we'll be replaying that particular video each night that it's broadcast, each night that I update it over the course of the next live stream. So Tuesday night, you'll get Tuesday night's version of this that you just saw. Okay, so that's just a sort of happy medium I've got to strike that allows me to talk to you live, but also preserves my voice. Alrighty, weatheriq.com.au/subscribe if you're interested in that subscription service. Now, I want to talk one more thing before I ask for questions. I want to go back over to Queensland and I just want to have a look here for Queenslanders, particularly northeast Queenslanders. We're looking at some pretty significant rainfall potential for that North Tropical Coast region over the course of the next little while. So Saturday, obviously the heavier rainfall in the Burdick and the Whitsundays Mackay region, right? Sunday, the expectation is that we're going to see most of our heavier shower activity pushing into the Herbert Burdick region. And then on Monday, we actually anticipate some pretty heavy falls of rain developing through the northeast coast. So we're talking about the Cassowary coast there. I'll just zoom us into the Cairns district, so we can have a closer look at the Cairns district. So what we can see here is that we're expecting to see some moderate to heavy falls of rain developing from about Rolling Stone northwards on Monday and extending up to, I reckon the Daintree will be in on this mess as well. The monsoon starts to organise up here at that time around Cooktown. So the idea here is going to be we're going to see heavy rain up in the northern parts from the monsoonal northwesterlies, and we're going to see heavy rain in the southern parts from the southeasterlies. So that's why we've got these two distinct areas of heavy rain, one in the north, one in the south. And, excuse me, one in the north, one in the south. And then the idea being, as we go into Tuesday, is that this should shift northwards, but it's heavily dependent on where that low forms. Because remember, on Tuesday and Wednesday is when that low in the Coral Sea will form. And we need to keep an eye on whether it forms here or whether it forms further out to sea. If it forms fairly close to the coast, we might actually see some very heavy falls developing come Wednesday. If it forms a little further out to sea, we're going to potentially see a lot of rainfall push out to sea. So that period, Monday is pretty much guaranteed to see heavy rain. Tuesday, no guarantees, but it looks as though the heavy rain will try and shift northwards, more towards the Daintree coast. Wednesday, we could see some really heavy rain if the western solution verifies. And then, of course, Thursday, we would see that heavy rain further increase as the low pushes onto the coast Thursday night, Friday morning in this area. And then we'd start to see that heavy rain contracting southwards as the low spreads out into a trough, and then we're watching the southern edge of the trough down south on Friday. So there's a lot of nuance in the forecast, but what we can see is that there's going to be some heavy rainfall here on Monday, with potential for that heavy rain to continue for much of the week, depending on the low pressure development here. So end result for the week, we could be looking at some very substantial rainfall up around the 0.5 metre range, all right? So that's dependent on, of course, whether or not we get the western solution verifying versus the eastern solution. An eastern solution would more than halve that number, all right? But a western solution would certainly result in some really big falls. All righty, complicated stuff. I'm glad I was able to explain it to you in a video, pre-record video. All right, let's have a look at some questions now, and let's get stuck into them. By the way, just a reminder, subscription service, folks, if you do like what we do, you did like that video that you just got shown, that's the sort of stuff our subscribers get every single day. weatheriq.com.au/subscribe, $32.95 a year. Gets you those. All right. Able to turn the volume up. Can't hear the playback. Oh, I think I did that. Yep, sweet. Nero's for the popcorn, admiring his muscles in the camera. I wasn't, but yeah, fair enough. Good evening. Good to see the gun shows in action. Thanks, Trace. Good idea to save your voice. Thanks, Amy. Yeah. I thought about it today, and I thought, man, I'm just going to tell everyone the same thing I just told the members. So I'm just going to replay the member video. Hi from Tasmania, says Shelley. Ex-FNQ resident, still watching from afar. Good on you, Shelley. Thanks for joining us. Can take the... what is it? Can take the girl out of North Queensland, but you can't take the North Queensland out of the girl. That's the saying. Good rain at Horsham at the moment. Oh yeah, that's down in Victoria's Horsham, I believe. I've bet on that racetrack before. There should be some good rain still to come for Victoria tomorrow as well. Oh my God, Nitso, turn to the side as I can't see those guns, says Bron. Thanks, Bron. Todd, Tony, this is the only weather page I follow now. Oh, good on you, Bron. Thanks for joining us. Shane, anything for Brisbane? Yeah, man, nothing for Brisbane in the next few days, but obviously we need to pay attention to Brisbane later on down the track as we get into, say, Friday, Saturday. Oh, where's our weather centre there? So as we get into Friday, Saturday, Sunday, yeah, absolutely we need to pay attention to Brisbane. Because there is some potential, if we do get a north-south solution, that south solution drives a fair bit of rain potentially close to the coastline. And obviously, depending on the timing of that solution, we could see some very heavy rain into this area. But, you know, it's not something I'd be paying attention to right now. It's something I'd be paying attention to come Friday, Saturday, Sunday. All right, that's the time. If Brisbane does get impacted, that's the time they would get impacted from that sort of system as it transitions to an east coast low and then pushes out towards the southeast. That would be the time that I would be interested in it from a Brisbane perspective. Outside of that, Brisbane this week is just going to get a few showers. I think you're getting quite a few showers tomorrow. I think tomorrow's a pretty showery old day for the southeast corner, yeah. There's just a slight enhancement of shower activity. You had a very showery day yesterday. Had a little bit of shower activity today. Tomorrow we'll see a little bit more shower activity compared to today, but not as much as what you got yesterday. And then that about does us for the week until we see what that Coral Sea garbage is going to do. Okay? That's for you, Shane. Fee, thanks, Nitso. In the pool watching tonight. We'll have to replay. Missed the beginning. Okay. Yeah, no worries, Fee. Portia, hi from East Mackay by the sea. Hello, Portia. How are you? Keep an eye on that low in the Coral Sea, eh? Matt Stanley, cut it out. I'm not sure what Matt's talking about, but no worries. Mark says you really need a headset. I need another voice, Mark. Otherwise, I wouldn't need a headset if I had another voice. JB, thanks, Nitso. No worries, JB. Thanks for tuning in. Lucy, good evening, Nitso. Tuning in here from Kerwin, which is in Townsville, for those of you not from up northeast Queensland, while my dinner cooks. Thanks so much for all that you do. I hate to ask, but I'm in Widow's fog brain today. I've watched all your vids, but I don't catch as much in this mode. the question, silly as it may seem, do you have any idea when will be a good day to mow in the next week? Oh, yeah, Lucy, there'll be plenty of time to mow in Townsville because Townsville's going to see a mostly fine week. Believe it or not, we're in for a very showery day tomorrow, more showery than even today was. So a little bit of shower activity tonight. We're in for a lot of shower activity tomorrow through the entire region. But then on Monday, we expect all that shower activity to really start shifting northwards. And then through the week, Tuesday, Wednesday, look, Thursday even, we're looking at mostly fine conditions for Townsville, mate. So if you're going to mow, I'd be mowing early. Just sometimes with Townsville in this setup, what happens is around about 11, 12, 1 o'clock, so 11 a.m. to sort of 1 p.m, the clouds start to build and you just get one or two of those little suburban showers. So if you're going to mow, just get out there and mow nice and early before those little suburban showers pop up, because we can't guarantee where those are going to happen. One day they'll be over Kerwin, one day they'll be over Rangewood, one day they'll be over Stewart, right? They're not something that affects the whole city, but they're just annoying when they happen over the top of you. So maybe if you can get it done before lunch, before those little pocket showers start popping up, once the convective currents get going. So any morning out of those mornings, just maybe not Monday morning. There could still be a few showers lingering around on Monday morning as they're pushing up north. Okay? So Tuesday morning, Wednesday morning, Thursday morning should be all good to go if you want to mow. All right. Haha, such a noisy eater. What's for snacks tonight? Cough lollies. I don't know how good the snacks they are, Jen, but yeah, cough lollies, bud. It's not the nicest snack. Which Sunday area of rainfall for the next week on Tuesday to Thursday next week? Tuesday to Thursday this week. I'm hoping you mean this week because next week we got no idea. But Tuesday to Thursday this week, Jesse. Yeah, not much going on there, mate. A couple of showers, I'd say. A few showers on the Whitsundays, just with southeasters, mate. So if you take a look at what's happening in the Whitsundays as we go into sort of Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, it's all southeasterlies, and it's pretty strong southeasterlies. And the southeasterlies are always going to drive a fair bit of shower activity onto the Mackay coastline, especially when they're not quite dry season southeasterlies yet. So, yeah, I'd be expecting to see coastal showers in the morning and overnight. And I'd be expecting to see little showers popping up on the hinterland areas in the afternoons, mate. I can't see anything different happening from what I've just said there for the Mackay Whitsundays. If we do get the cyclone and if it does come down Mackay way, hell, that's not going to happen until Friday anyway. And we're not going to see a lot of remember how I showed you that in the broadcast, I showed you that the Coral Sea was very dry. So the Coral Sea around Mackay is very, very dry through Wednesday, Thursday. So there's not exactly going to be a lot of build-up. So even if the let's say worst case scenario, it becomes a cyclone, it goes beelines for the Whitsundays for you, whacks you on Friday, you're not going to see much lead up. So you're not going to see much build-up of rainfall there. It's just going to be one big deluge that just comes in all of a sudden. All right, so it's a bit different to maybe the stuff that we're used to in North Queensland, where we're used to a big build-up to it all. Yeah, this one wouldn't do that. So if it hits anywhere sort of Townsville, Bowen, Whitsundays, Mackay, St. Lawrence, there won't be a build-up. It'll just be bang. It'll hit you and then go away. All right, so just understand that's what we're dealing with there. So not much rain. So to answer your question, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday this week sees a little bit of shower activity on a southeasterly flow. Nothing more. All right, so that's for Jesse. Dolphin, with the Gulf system moving west and potentially going off the WA coastline, would this reinvigorate? No, Dolphin. So your question, with the Gulf system moving west and potentially going off WA's coast, would this reinvigorate the monsoon? It'd actually do the opposite, mate. So, yeah, we sort of don't want that because the monsoon might not come back if it goes away now. So, ideally, let's see if we've got it here. No, I've got to find a model that takes that Gulf system that far west. It's hard to find. There's not too many models that do that. Yeah, so no. Look, ideally what we want to see, so Ideal world here, Dolphin. What we'd like to see is the Gulf system move west, get to about the NT, and just chill. Now, NT folks won't want that because NT folks are just going to get absolutely pissed on for ages and ages and ages. But if in terms of the monsoon sticking around, we would want that low in the NT from the Gulf into the NT and just sort of mucking about through the Gregory, the Barkley, maybe the East Kimberley. If it moves to the west, all of this westerly flow on your screen here will be pulled westwards away from Australia. All right, and then we'd be in a situation where we're umming and ahhing. Is that the end of our wet season? Will we see the monsoon again? That becomes one of those situations then. Okay, so ideally, what we want to see at this juncture would be that Gulf low just move across the top end and then just chill, just sort of either die here. Even if it dies here, that's not a worst case scenario. That allows the monsoon to continue, albeit very weakly, but continue to operate in our waters. If it goes all the way west and out to sea, it's going to take this westerly flow and it's going to take it out to the west, and then we're going to be displaced with an easterly flow. Or sorry, that westerly flow is going to be displaced with an easterly flow over us. All right, and that will take the monsoon away. And then, as I said, then it becomes a tricky affair as to try and figure out whether the monsoon will come back or not. So that's what would happen with the Gulf system moving west. Tim, it could be a lot of heavy rainfall for most of eastern Queensland, possibly New South Wales. Yeah, it could be. Yeah, absolutely. And yes, some of the modelling is suggesting that, Tim, where we've got a north centre and a south centre, and we've got a trough that links the two. Obviously, the heaviest rain would probably be in northeast Queensland, up around the Cairns district, and then a secondary burst of heavy rain would be in southeast. So in this setup where we've got maybe the multiple circulations, we could see some heavy rain in the North Tropical coast, and then we would see really heavy rain around the southeast Queensland coast and maybe northeastern edging New South Wales. So that could be a really interesting scenario for both of those. And then the piggy in the middles, the Townsvilles, the Mackays, the Rockies, the St. Lawrences, all those areas, the Gladstones, they would probably see a quarter of the stuff that we might see further north and further south. The big thing with the southern part of the rainfall is going to be, where does the low get to at the point of recurvature, right? So if it's still off the coast, mate, you won't get more than a shower or two in southeast Queensland. But if it goes inland, so let's say it hits the coast around Mackay or St. Lawrence, goes inland and then comes back out to the southeast, holy dooly, you write your own ticket for your rainfall amount as we go into the weekend, right? So absolutely, there could be a really nice scenario there where everyone gets a bit of rain, but really heavy stuff in the far north and really heavy stuff in the southeast. So yeah, it is a possibility. But listen, Tim, it's one of many possibilities, and it's not a possibility. It's a possibility, not a high probability scenario. So it's really important that we distinguish possibility from probability, or probable scenario from possible scenario. Okay, but yeah, absolutely. A possible scenario is that the whole East Coast gets a bit of a drenching, with those two focal points being far north Queensland and the southeastern parts of Queensland. Josh, F yeah, Nitzo, getting me hard, bruh. No worries, Josh. Yeah. I'll leave that there. I think that speaks for itself. Hi, Nitzo, what's your go-to model? The old EU model seems to be the most accurate from here south of Charters. Yeah, Reese, all around the world, the EU model, or the ECMWF model, is the most accurate all around the world, mate. So it is the go-to, but what we're finding is that AI modelling is overtaking it in terms of accuracy. And the EC has an AI model, and that's one that we often use. With these complicated setups, we use it not so much for tropical cyclone intensities. We use it for potential tracks. So we look for tracks and we sort of analyse those models for tracks, because what those AI models do really well is they pick broad scale patterns way better than anything that we currently have. Okay, so our AI models can really pick up upper troughs and upper ridges, and those things are so important when it comes to steering of major tropical systems. So that's where we use the AI models a lot. We use the AI models generally for a broad-scale rainfall distribution, but not when we get into an event. When we get into an event, we really want to hone in on the higher resolution models, like the Euro, like the Access C models, even the Access G UK Met models. Those models are very good once the event is underway at picking up who gets heavy rain, how heavy the rain gets. AI models pretty useless at that. AI models are good at who might get rain, but not once the rain gets heavy. So that's what I would use, mate. A bunch of models. The Euro, generally for when we're inside something, when we're in an event, sure. The Euro is a very good model. The Access C model, when we're inside an event, very good model. The AI modeling, very good before something happens. All right, very good before something happens. They can tell us what the broad scale pattern looks like. Okay. Jesse, hang on. Yep, sorry, Fee. Pouring down at air now. I'm still in the pool though. You're getting wet anyway, Fee, so it makes sense you stay in the pool. It's good stuff. Charlie, Rocky. Yeah, Rocky's one of those tough ones, mate. Charlie, nothing much there for Rocky now until whatever happens out here happens, right? So there's nothing there for Rocky to worry about until there might be, all right? There's nothing there for Rocky to worry about over the course of the next, X number of days. There's literally nothing going on except for strong winds. If we take a look at Rocky's surface winds here, you can see pretty strong winds developing, right? That's the biggest thing Rocky has to worry about, and that's not really Rocky. That's like Yeppoon and offshore areas, right? 20 to 30 knot southeasterlies. That's the big talking point for that part of the world for basically the entire week, right? So that's it until something else happens. Now, what that something else is, we don't know yet, because we don't know where these systems are going to form. So go back to what we talked about at the start, right? We don't know where these systems are going to form, so we don't know how prepared Rocky needs to be as we get into the weekend. So earliest Friday, but more likely Saturday. How prepared does Rocky need to be? We really don't know at this point in time. But you can see there, say worst case scenario where we do get something right around Rocky, we're not getting any major weather for Rocky until the system is literally at your doorstep. And once again, that comes down to how dry the atmosphere is in the southern Coral Sea. There's not going to be a hell of a lot of lead up. And this applies for Townsville, it applies for Bowen, Mackay, St. Lawrence, Rocky, Gladstone, Bundy, Gympie, Brisbane. There's not a hell of a lot of lead up to this, all right? There's not going to be a bunch of rain before it hits. It's just if it hits, if it hits, it's just going to hit. There's not going to be much before it, all right? So for Rocky, mostly fine all week, mate. Just an isolated shower or two on the southeasterly. That's all you're getting in Rocky, and obviously keep an eye on what's going on up north. Jesse, rainfall for the Whitsundays. Jesse, we talked about rainfall for the Whitsundays Tuesday to Thursday. I'm not even going to have a guess at rainfall for the Whitsundays Friday to Sunday. That will depend on the low in the Coral Sea. Yep, exactly. You said it yourself. So we're not guessing that, and it's no time to guess the sort of rainfall amounts and estimates there for the Whitsundays. Whitsundays might find itself too far south of the northern solution, too far north of the southern solution. They might get bugger all right? But or they might get 50 to 100 mils. If the system though comes in and hits them right head on around Bowen or Townsville, then they'll be in a convergence max and they'll get 300-400 mils, right? So you're talking variations of 5 mils to 500 mils for that area, right? So it's pretty silly to speculate. Tanya, okay, then how much heavy rainfall will hit my area of Tully this week, please? Yeah, once again, same sort of thing, Tanya. It's how long's a piece of string, mate? We know that Tully's going to get some good rain. We know Tully's going to get some good rain on Monday. So this part here. So I want to show you this part. So as the southeasterlies start charging northwards, Tully will get good rain out of that. So you can see there already by Sunday, we're starting to develop some heavier shower activity through Tully, Sunday Ave, Sunday night. Then on Monday, we know that we're going to get heavy rain through Tully. Then we know that that's going to try and move northwards. But then does it move northwards and offshore? Or does it stay in play northwards and then slowly filter southwards again? And that's the difference between Tully getting over 0.5 metre of rain this week and Tully only getting 100 or 200 mils this week, right? But I would say minimum for Tully would be around 100 mils this week, right? But the maximum, write your own ticket for the maximum, because it does depend on what this low does. If it forms close to the coast, what it does, and how close to the coast does it form is as to how long Tully gets a lot of rain. So that's it's a write your own ticket affair when it comes to how much rain am I going to get, because you could write your own ticket and you could write 500 tickets and still it might be 501 mils. All right, so it's one of those situations, mate. We just don't know how much rain you're going to get, and that's for anyone asking for rain on the East Coast. If you ask me rain about the Cape, sure, we'll have a better idea. But if you ask me about the East Coast, yeah, we just don't know, mate. We just don't know. Christy, hi Christy, how are you? Raining light right this minute in the Walkerston area. Yeah, Walkerston, I'm assuming Mackay region. Yeah, that'll settle down. So with Mackay, we do anticipate that heavier rainfall to sort of filter northwards fairly quickly tomorrow. So if we do take a look there, MSLP precip this evening shows lots of rain around the Mackay with Sundays this evening and tonight. And then, yeah, look at how quickly that filters north. See how quickly we lose that colour on the chart? So you can see there, lots of colour on the chart around Mackay this evening and tonight. And then suddenly about 4 to 7 a.m, we just sort of lose it all, and it all shifts northwards up towards the Burdekin. Still a fair bit of shower activity around the Whitsundays there tomorrow, but even Mackay, we're probably only looking at a shower or two. But certainly for tonight, for the rest of the next 3 to 6 hours, there's still plenty more coming onto the coast, but we do expect that to ease off very quickly tomorrow. Tan, William Brock. Tan must be tagging someone. Fee, so my first ever cyclone was Koji. Does this system give me a better chance of experiencing a proper cyclone? No, if anything, this system's probably going to give you a worse chance at experiencing a proper cyclone. Look, in saying that, I did show you the environment in the Coral Sea. The environment in the Coral Sea is very favourable for a tropical cyclone to develop. The problem is, as I said there, structure. It's like saying that, what is it, that Brady Bunch. Marsha. It's like structure. Something the Coral Sea has lacked in almost every tropical cyclone since Tropical Cyclone Debbie has been solid structure. We haven't seen solid structure in a Coral Sea cyclone since Debbie. I think the closest we came was that cyclone that hit up on the Daintree a couple of years ago. That was the closest we came to a structurally sound cyclone. The rest of it has just been ticking boxes and technicalities as to why they're naming them cyclones, but in real terms, they've been terribly structured. And this looks to be something fairly similar. Obviously, if we can tighten that field up, the environment does show signs that it could rapidly strengthen, but not if it's a big, broad low and trough like it's expected to be. So I don't look, I'm not going to say no, because we're clearly seeing evidence that there is a tropical cyclone potential on the coastline, but I'm just saying maybe don't have your hopes up too much. Reese, 20 millimetres this afternoon in a good couple of storms. Heavier north towards the Cape River between Charters Towers and Ballyeando. Had 450 millimetres in the last 16 days. Holy shit, that's a lot of rain for that inland part. That explains probably why the Burdekin River is going crazy. And I think Dylan was out there today, and he posted that little reel on our Facebook page of the Burdekin River going a bit skits. Absolutely awesome to see. Yeah. 450 mils in 16 days, man. That's a lot of rain. Any chance of flooding between Townsville and Cairns this week? Yeah, possibly. I mean, there's some fairly good rain in the Tully area. Tully Innisfail expected on Monday. There's some good rain in the Daintree expected on Tuesday. And then potentially further good falls on Wednesday, Thursday if that low/cyclone comes towards Cairns. Yeah, there's potential. Yeah, but only potential at the moment. It's not. Yeah, Rob, it's not a situation I'd be locking in. And we know that that rainfall on that northeast coast is going to be very coastal. So it's not as if it's going to hit in the upper catchment. It's going to hit in the lower catchment. So it's not a situation where I'm overly concerned about major flooding. Obviously, I will be if there are signs that the low is forming in the Western Coral Sea. Absolutely. By Tuesday, Wednesday, we'll know that, and then we'll definitely be able to hone in on that. And then the thing is, if it does form in the Western Coral Sea, there won't be much of a reprieve. It'll just be heavy rain Tuesday in the Daintree, and then redeveloping all through the district on Wednesday. So yeah, there is a chance, mate. There is a chance we flood out that area, but it won't be long lasting. So once we get past about once we get past about Saturday, all of that rain will have to move away from the region. So it would only be a case of the rain sticking around for a few days. Rick, hi Nitso, have just joined the chat. What are we going to expect for the Innisfail area? Yeah, exactly what we just said for the Cairns to Townsville region in general. So lots of shower activity, Rick, in the Innisfail area on Monday. So there'll be a bit of an increase in showers tomorrow. Lots of showers as we go into Monday, with some heavy falls developing through the Innisfail area Monday, and then they'll continue into Monday night, Tuesday morning, and then they'll shift northwards. Then what happens beyond then depends on where our little low starts to form. If it starts to form out here, we'll then see a redevelopment of that heavy rainfall activity later on Tuesday or Tuesday night, and then we'll see that rain setting in for quite a number of days as we go into Wednesday, Thursday. The low or cyclone will hit the coast on Thursday, Friday up here, and then we'll quickly move that rain away once it hits the coast and moves further south, all right? But generally speaking, there is plenty of rainfall potential for Innisfail, but we don't know if that potential is just Monday into Tuesday morning, or whether there's renewed potential throughout the week. And that comes down to not knowing what the low is going to do up here, Rick. So that's what we're watching, mate, whether or not we get the low forming close to the coast. Reese, thanks, Nitz. I appreciate your work. You're my go-to weatherman for explanations and teaching. You're a teacher previously. Yeah, I was, Reese. I was a teacher, and then I went back to uni, and yeah, had a bit of a checkered little period there between teaching and uni, and then did my own thing. So yeah, that's me. But yes, I used to be a teacher, so if I do have my teaching voice, like I did there in the video, when we were talking about where do you reckon it's going to go? West, southwest. Yeah, that was my teaching voice. I try and keep my teaching voice out of it, but sometimes I just can't help it. Right, I'm just going to have a check. I think that's everyone's questions answered. I'm just going to have a check here on our YouTube to see if anyone's given us super chats. No super chats. All right, no problems. Folks, so once again, our subscription service, that's the way we fund operations here, weatheriq.com.au/subscribe. If you liked that first 23-minute video and you want to get more of that, and on a daily basis, please think about joining us, and your support is very much appreciated. For those of you that don't want to commit to a full year, we do have a $14.95 a month subscription on YouTube. So you can get most of our videos. We don't put them all there on YouTube, but it's $14.95 a month. You can check it out for a month. If you liked it and then you want to upgrade to one of these plans for a year, just send us an email and we'll take a little bit of money off your actual plan. All right, so we can do that for you. Otherwise, I'll talk to you again. Next time we're talking is Tuesday night. So Tuesday night, there'll be a lot less I don't knows. There'll be a lot more we do knows on Tuesday night, and we'll be able to sort of hone in on who gets rain, how much rain, where cyclone, what cyclone, who cyclone. Have a good day. Have a good night. Well, go the Cowboys tomorrow too, Las Vegas. Go the